Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. We're going to be taking a look at some really interesting developments in the world of generative AI. We've got articles on everything from gaming to cybersecurity to national security.
Yeah, I think what's really fascinating is how fast this technology is changing so many different industries.
Right. Like in the gaming industry, for example, Netflix is going all in on using AI for game development. And this is even after they had those layoffs in their gaming division recently.
Yeah, that is interesting. Their VP of Generative AI for games, Mike Verdu, seems really optimistic, though. He's even comparing the current state of AI in gaming to the 90s when we saw all those groundbreaking innovations.
You're talking about a creator-first vision.
Yeah.
So the idea is that AI would be used as a tool to empower game developers, not to replace them.
Right. It could help them be more efficient. Like instead of spending hours on tedious tasks like building 3D models or creating environments, they can use AI to do a lot of that heavy lifting.
Exactly. Then they can focus more on the creative side of things, like coming up with innovative gameplay or compelling stories.
Yeah, I think there's huge potential there. But we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out in practice.
For sure. But before we get carried away with all the amazing things AI can do, we should probably talk about the downsides too, like deepfakes.
Yeah.
And what that means for cybersecurity.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. It's scary how realistic they're getting.
And it's not just a hypothetical threat anymore. Like, did you hear about that incident where a deepfake was used to infiltrate a job interview at Exabeam?
Oh yeah, that was wild. The interviewer didn't even realize it was a fake at first. They said the candidate was barely moving and their lips weren't really syncing with the audio.
That's a good point, the subtle cues.
Yeah.
It's pretty unsettling to think about how sophisticated these things are becoming.
Right, like machine-generated content is already making up something like 12% of all emails. But luckily, there are organizations like OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project, that are developing tools to help combat these AI-driven threats.
So they're fighting AI with AI.
Kind of, yeah. They're coming up with things like guidelines and incident management frameworks, and they're even putting together a database of AI security tools.
Okay, so we've got AI helping us create games, and then we have AI being used to trick us online. So now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture, open source AI and what it means for national security.
So Meta, the company behind Facebook, released its Llama models as open source. And that means anyone can access and modify the code.
And we're not just talking about a few tech enthusiasts messing around in their basements. The U.S. government and some of its partners are actually using Llama for some pretty important stuff.
Yeah, things like aircraft maintenance, operational planning, and even code generation.
And companies like Oracle, Scale AI, and even Lockheed Martin are getting involved. They're all integrating Llama into their systems.
The idea is that if we can encourage the use of American open source AI models, it'll create kind of a virtuous cycle. More adoption leads to more investment, more innovation, and ultimately more U.S. leadership in the field.
And this could lead to open source AI becoming a sort of global standard, like what happened with Linux and Android.
Exactly. It's a strategy that makes sense from both an economic and a security perspective.
But there's a catch, right? Like, what about other countries using this technology? You mentioned something about China earlier.
Well, that's the unsettling part. Some Chinese researchers developed a military AI model called ChatBIT, and they based it on Meta's Llama.
So they're using our open source technology to build up their own AI capabilities.
It seems that way, yeah. And it's designed for intelligence gathering and analysis, which could give them a big advantage.
Okay, wow. So what can the U.S. do about that?
It's tough. Some people are pushing for tighter export controls and limits on which open source technologies can be shared.
But wouldn't that also hurt innovation here in the U.S.? Like if researchers and companies can't access the tools they need?
Right. It's a tricky situation. It's this balancing act between encouraging innovation and protecting national security.
Okay, so we've talked about Netflix using AI to make games and the US and China kind of in this tug of war over open source AI. That's a lot to process.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There are still so many questions about the ethics of AI development, how it'll impact jobs, and even how it might reshape international relations.
That's true. But before we jump ahead, let's talk about OpenAI. They're the company behind ChatGPT, And it seems like they're thinking about making a pretty big change to their business model.
You mean the move from a nonprofit to a for-profit entity?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Apparently, they're talking with regulators right now to try to figure out how to make that transition. So why would OpenAI, an organization focused on developing safe and beneficial AI, want to become a for-profit company?
Well, it sounds like one of the main reasons is money. Developing these advanced AI models takes a lot of resources, and becoming a for-profit could help them attract more investors and scale up their operations.
I can see that, but doesn't that kind of go against their original mission? Some people are worried that this shift could mean that profits will become more important than the ethical considerations that OpenAI has been known for.
It's a valid concern, and regulators are definitely keeping a close eye on this. But OpenAI has said that they're committed to keeping their nonprofit side and making sure their work still aligns with their mission.
So it sounds like they're trying to find a balance.
It seems that way. It'll be interesting to see how they manage it.
Definitely.
It'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds. We were talking about how generative AI is being used in so many different industries before the break, like healthcare, finance, and manufacturing. It's pretty exciting stuff.
It is. But now I kind of want to talk about what all this means for jobs. Like, are robots going to take over the world and put us all out of work?
Well, some jobs will definitely be automated, but AI will also create new jobs and opportunities. Like, think about all the people who will be needed to develop and maintain these AI systems. We'll need AI specialists, data scientists, engineers.
Right. So maybe it's not so much about jobs disappearing as it is about the nature of work changing. Like, we'll need to adapt, learn new skills.
Exactly. You know, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, had a really interesting point about hiring. He said that companies should value both young talent and experienced professionals.
Yeah, I read that. It makes sense. You need that fresh perspective, the energy of youth.
Yeah.
But you also need the wisdom and experience of people who've been in the trenches for a while.
Right. You need that balance. Imagine a team with bright young minds who are eager to push the boundaries. And then you have the seasoned veterans who can provide guidance and mentorship, who can help navigate all the complexities of this new frontier.
Yeah, that's a powerful combination. Okay, so we've talked about the good and the bad, the excitement of AI in healthcare and finance, and the concerns about its impact on jobs and national security. It seems like there are a lot of mixed feelings out there.
Definitely. There's incredible potential, but there are also a lot of risks.
So what do you think? What does the future hold for generative AI?
I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic. I think this technology can help us solve some of the world's biggest problems. But it's up to us to make sure it's used for good. It's like we're at this fork in the road, and we need to choose the right path.
Yeah, it's both exciting and kind of scary at the same time.
It is. But the choices we make now will determine whether AI becomes a force for good or something we regret. We need to have those tough conversations, think critically about the implications, and work together to make sure AI benefits everyone.
Welcome back to the show. It feels like we've just scratched the surface of this whole AI thing.
I know, right? It's mind-blowing how much there is to talk about, and we're only just beginning to see its impact on the world.
Exactly, from gaming to cybersecurity, national security, it's everywhere.
And the crazy thing is, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Who knows what the next few years will bring?
Right, that's why I think it's so important for everyone to really start thinking about the implications of all of this.
Absolutely. Like, how do you see generative AI impacting your work, your industry? What are the potential benefits and drawbacks?
Yeah, and I think the bigger question is, how can we make sure this technology is used responsibly and ethically? We've seen what can happen when it falls into the wrong hands.
Exactly. We need to be proactive. This isn't something we can just sit back and wait to see how it unfolds.
I think this deep dive has hopefully given everyone a lot to think about.
It really has, and I encourage everyone to continue exploring these issues and engaging in these conversations.
Yeah, the future of AI is ultimately in our hands. It's up to us to shape it in a way that benefits everyone.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of generative AI. We'll see you next time.